In the state of Texas, the Constitution of Texas, specifically the Bill of Rights, says that there is no preferencing or privileging of any specific sect. I've also provided information of my understanding that there's no requirement, and it's actually against the Constitution to require any religious test when it comes either to accessing the public trust or being able even to run for office. It's explicitly unconstitutional. It's not allowed. There's no legal justification. Any effort to try to engage that, even if you're talking, I don't know, about applying a moral character test, there's actually legal determinants about moral turpitude based on actual law, including in compliance with the First Amendment. If you're a lawyer, especially, and you're somebody that believes that you're entitled to make discernments about whether or not somebody had the moral character or the moral turpitude to be able to participate in a particular manner, then you should have already known what the Supreme Court specifically said about moral turpitude in accordance with honoring the First Amendment regarding freedom of religion. And if you're in Texas, you were at least supposed to know about the constitutional preclusions on requiring a religious test for anything, or about the privileging of any sect. I should already have known what the first article, or rather Section 1 of the Bill of Rights of Texas Constitution was and what it meant. In 2017, I sent a petition, an original petition, paper petition, to the Supreme Court of the United States. I talked to people on the phone. I talked to the clerk of the court on the phone, who said that the most common filing they received was a writ of certiorari, and they were sending back my petition. It wasn't a recommendation. It was information. It was a fact. They were going to send back my petition. I was homeless. I was on the streets at the time. I didn't quite understand because I had filed something with the district court. They'd lied to me. It was a lie. I arrived there on site. I said, can I file a petition for the Supreme Court of the United States through the electronic filing system here? Yes, you can. We're going to take it and we're going to scan it in and we're going to give you this acknowledgement. And then I go back a few days later in order to provide a motion. You can't do that. No, you're not allowed to do that. And actually, you're going to need to cross out the name of the court and you're going to have to write in another court name and you're going to have to initial it. They ended up taking that case that I submitted at the district court and they set up a separate case number and just never responded to me concerning a medical claim. The case had nothing to do with the medical claim. But they've been running a fake operation associated with that alternative case number that they set up on the case without ever contacting me about the terms of that specific case, and how it was that the case I directly filed and got a case number from was denied after they scheduled a conference call for several months later without canceling the conference call, by the way. But then they hooked up this other case number concerning a medical claim. And that medical claim has been doing what? Well, look at what the Texas Board of Insurance has done. Look at what the state of Texas has done. And look at what's happened with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. All of these places that I had gone through a process of filing actual official grievances with. Open case numbers. Nobody gets back to me. Nobody told me about that specific case, but I found it. There was a case number. There doesn't appear to be any activity. But that's because why? See, I was homeless when the Supreme Court of the United States sent me back the package with my original petition, which would have included whatever the formal correspondence was related to that first effort to contact the Supreme Court of the United States. I requested a writ of quo warranto in suppression of sedition. It's an extraordinary writ. It's up to the court to use their discretion to determine whether or not to. But I have no idea what happened. Because the place, while I was on the streets and homeless, where I could get the mail, was at a Christian service provider where you had to go and get the mail from them on site. And they conveniently banned me right before the package showed up. The third time a Christian service provider that actually qualifies as a place of business for the purposes of an domicile when it comes to tax purposes, bans me right before it shows up. They got my petition. That Christian service provider stole my original petition to the Supreme Court of the United States, which also includes whatever the formal correspondence was that the court had with me after I filed that first petition. And they lied. They lied the entire rest of the time I was in Houston to me. And I contend they took that petition and they hooked up a whole host of other crimes using that. Now, the thing is that's the original paper. That's the original printout. That's the original information that would have included, for instance, when I ended up getting it notarized as part of the petition that I attached, all of the attachments, my original actual signature, the actual original letter, and whatever else would have been in the correspondence the court sent back to me. But I never got it because they conveniently banned me for absolutely no legitimate reason before I was able to get my own mail. Every single bond, every single deal hooked up with that has not only been fraud, it's been massively heinous fraud. We're talking about the kind of things that start Holocaust. And I think they knew that. I really think that we're dealing with people that are the sort of people that think that they're justified to steal somebody's petition to the Supreme Court and use it for massive, massive crimes. And because nobody wanted to acknowledge the magnitude of the specific kind of persecution they subjected me to, including going all the way back to 2005 when I first came to Texas under a completely good faith arrangement, specifically to work in an administrative role with the legal community. Nobody's acknowledged any of the implications of what it was that they let get set up then. And so when somebody steals my actual petition to the Supreme Court of the United States and uses it for heinous, heinous, heinous crime, I'm literally in a situation where I'm not even allowed to talk to anybody. Nobody will even talk to me. How long can you keep her confined in that room and have her objectified while people do all of these different things? What is wrong with you guys? What is wrong with people that let this happen? The thing is, that goes all the way back to the beginning. That's not unique. It's the same thing that happened at the beginning of the United States of America. That people put forward an effort to support justice, to support the people being safe and being able to address acts of tyranny. And what happened was, when it came time for them to redeem what had been promised as part of their contribution, somebody stole the original documentation and told them that they were valued at much less for whatever reason. And then they sold it themselves. They sold it themselves for what they determined was, I don't know, the priority. We've been dealing with the ramifications. So when they stole my argument on July 4th and when they stole my responses before, I keep trying to do the same thing over and over again because it's actually the essential argument. Every time they steal it, what they say is that is how little legitimacy they actually have. Now we're at a point where it is actually possible to engage as the people in some sort of recovery of our national legacy and destiny. But the bad faith and the speculation that has gone on in complete abdication of anybody's true authenticity to the cause has politically bankrupted us. I can't. I have 2 other petitions I sent to the Supreme Court of the United States, the original paper they sent back to me. But somebody took that first one and they created an entire completely false paradigm. And it sabotaged everything else I've tried to do, up to and including actually launching a biological attack on the planet. And I heard what you guys did over the weekend. It is the most obscene, horrible thing. And the problem is you won't stop. You won't admit you have a problem. And now we are where we are today. And what you've done is you completely delegitimized that. See, if somebody had to take the actual paper the actual original paper as if it was some sort of bearer bond, you already let it get into the hands of the wrong people. You took it and you assumed an identity that wasn't yours, and you did completely heinous things with it. And what it did is it poisoned everything that came after it. And even if I could cure it, and even if I could heal it, because you have not confessed what you did, and you have not taken responsibility for what you did, all it does is invite anybody else that legitimizes you, as opposed to the rest of us, into the same heinousness year after year, decade after decade, time after time. This is not capital neutral, guys. And you can't launder it through your charity. You can't launder it through the church. You've made your faith-based organizations enemy number one. I'm sorry. Regardless of what they are. You committed to this conspiracy, and it's so heinous. My effort to contact the Supreme Court of the United States got stolen by religious fundamentalists, and they have been using it to wield some kind of disgusting, disgraceful campaign of genocide against other people. I hear you, and you're all that you want me to hear. You only want me to hear you. You think you're somehow justified playing out this ritual of persecution against me because I haven't accepted Jesus into my life and subordinated myself to what you stole from me, and you're trying to do in the most heinous fashion. Unfortunately, it seems that the worst angels of human nature were actually able to usurp the United States government at the beginning. There's a whole history and legacy of just, righteous, moral objection. But I know now, you and your subjugation and your torment, you've been doing this since the beginning. Ever since the beginning. Whatever was good and noble, well, you're going to have to understand it's part of our faith tradition. Slavery is legitimate. It is our God-given right. We are superior people. God has appointed and anointed us. We are justified to have slaves. How dare you encroach upon our freedom to worship in accordance with our faith? There are slaves. God gave them to us. God didn't give it to you. I am not your slave. God didn't give me to you. You committed an egregious offense against anything righteous. You stole something you should never have had access to. See, if you were meant to have access to it, then when I came to you and said, I have testimony, I have been witness to offenses, you would not have chastised me because I did not deliver on your promise to offer a sacrifice of a desanctified woman as a display to everybody else. Over and over and over again. That's what you did. I have seen something. It is a crime. It is an offense before God. Well, you shouldn't have seen that. And because you have, you need to go over there to him and you need to be expiated. What are you talking about? Over and over and over and over again. That's what you did to your own Lady Justice. You expected to defile her into nothing more than a cheap fucking hooker so you can get away with your speculations on things that are not even yours. And this lets me know the will of God is not with you. The will of God is not with you. You do not trust in God. You have merely tried to monopolize access to resources to try to compel people to cede in their actual legitimate spirit and faith traditions. You're no different from massacre and massacre and massacre throughout history that failed. And you were the ones that wanted to consolidate the stakes at this level. Whoever you are in Houston, Texas, that stole my birth certificate, my social security card, my evidence, My petition to the Supreme Court, you need to relinquish it today! You will burn your own entire city with you! You have it! You have my attaché case with my notebooks, with my identity documents, with my evidence. It was testimony of crimes committed by evil people. You stole it in order to sell it. And in the course of doing it and being enabled and getting away with it this long, you have deprived everybody in the state of Texas of anything close to moral protection, including constitutional protection. You need to turn it back to me. It is not yours. It is not yours to defile. And everybody that aids and abets you, because there are plenty who know. There are plenty that have co-conspired to celebrate and revel in this depravity since then. They've chosen you. You need to relinquish it or they will go down with you.